Hi, friends. I'm Carrie Jo, and this is Holy Chuckles Podcast. This is a space for honest faith, lived experiences, and shining a light in the places we've learned to hide. I'm not here to explain faith. I'm here to live it out loud. So take a breath and let's make room for what's real. Welcome back to Holy Chuckles Podcast. I'm really glad you're here. I've been in 1 Samuel chapter 4, 11 through 18. It feels like months, but I know it's only been a week and a half that I've been really in this verse trying to understand it and what it means to me. Because all these verses, it's what they mean to me. How are they working in my life? How is God speaking to me through these verses? Everybody has a different perspective. These verses are going to mean something completely different to you than they are to me. We're different people. We're individuals. Our soul speaks differently to God. I started to record an episode and it was about these verses. And I got through the whole episode, and as soon as it was done, I was like, yeah, no, that's not it. I don't feel good about that. And maybe I was trying to pressure myself into learning something that I already knew. And it's not what God was trying to show me. And that's okay. But the fact that I stepped back and said, God, I don't think that's it. So I'm going to stay quiet. I'm going to sit still. And I'm going to let these verses work through me, work in me, so I can understand the lesson that I'm supposed to be learning. Because what 1 Samuel has done for me, it's helped me in my healing journey. The Bible's not for everyone. I didn't think the Bible was for me. In fact, if you were to tell me that I was going to be reading a Bible and learning lessons, I probably would have laughed. But that's exactly what I'm doing. This tool has helped me be able to understand myself, not the people in the Bible, not the rules in the Bible, but the verses have helped me understand myself and what I've been going through in my healing. And for me, I thought that the Bible was just there to tell me what to do. Because when I grew up, the Bible was something that people used to keep me in line. Rules to make me feel bad about myself because I wasn't perfect. I couldn't follow it. I couldn't be what that Bible was telling me to be. I couldn't be what God was telling me I had to be. But it wasn't God. It was the person on the pulpit. My parents, my grandparents, people who believed that I had to stay in line to exist. And I know that some people are going to say, well, that's not how God has been for me. That's not how the Bible has been for me. And you're absolutely right for you. That's not what you were raised in. That's not what you were taught to believe, and that's okay. In 1 Samuel chapter 4, 11 through 18, the Israelites were back in battle. And the story goes on to say a Benjamite leaves the battleground and runs to Shiloh to give the news. He tells the town of Shiloh what happened in that second battle. And there was a lot of commotion, a lot of crying out. And it goes on to say, Eli asked, what was all the commotion? And the Benjamite comes over to Eli and he tells him 4 things. Israel has been defeated with many casualties. In fact, when I looked it up, the second battle, they had lost over 30,000 foot soldiers. The second thing this young man had told Eli is Israel has fled the battlefield. The third thing, your sons Hophni and Phinehas have been killed. And the fourth thing, the ark of the Lord has been captured by the Philistines. At this time, Eli's very old. He's about 98 years old. He's been the leader of Israel for 40 years plus. And he is fragile. It says in different verses that he could barely see, he was going blind. Eli falls back, and because he can't hold his weight, he breaks his neck and dies. And when I first was doing the episode on this verse, I really thought it was about belief and faith. And then I thought maybe it was about the ark of the Lord and it being an idol. Thought maybe it was about Eli and how his faith had been more in that ark than it had been in God, because that's what resonated with me. That was my perspective at that moment. But as I started really thinking on the verses, talking to God about the verses, talking to myself a lot about the verses, I started to see what was really standing out to me. And it wasn't the loss of the battle, it wasn't the death of Eli's sons, it wasn't the ark that had been captured. It wasn't even the death of Eli. What stood out to me was the death of those 30,000 foot soldiers who went along with what their leaders said. Those 30,000 men stood out to me more than anything. Because in the first battle they lost, the leaders said, God, why have you let the Philistines defeat us? And they didn't even wait on an answer. They said, go get the ark. And when the ark came, they cheered. And I thought to myself, how many times did I cheer because something in my life changed? I didn't change. My heart didn't change. I didn't start to heal. I didn't look at myself and say, hey, what are we doing? I just went along with it. And that's what these soldiers did. Their leaders said, go get the ark. And they thought that was going to change the circumstance. They thought if they had the ark in their presence, that God would change something for them. But I realized God can't change anything just by showing up. We have to be willing to change. I had to be willing to change. God was there all along. In my life, God had been there all along. Every step I took, every mistake I made, everything I did, good, great, bad, indifferent, God was there every single time. God didn't change. And I didn't change. I stayed the same. Just like in this battle, they didn't train more. They didn't pump their soldiers up. They didn't get better weapons. Everything stayed the same, except they brought in something that they thought would change their circumstance. And it didn't, because they didn't change. And I started to look back on my life and realize my patterns kept staying the same. None of my patterns changed. The circumstance changed. The scenario changed. But my patterns stayed the same. In fact, just like the first battle, they lost 4K. The second battle, they lost 30K. It got worse. And that's how my life was. As I lived my life through these patterns and lived them over and over, it kept getting worse. And it was like, hey, are you not seeing what's happening? We keep doing the same thing, but things keep getting worse. but you keep doing them because I couldn't see it. Maybe I couldn't see it. Maybe I didn't want to see it. I thought if I worked harder, did better, pushed harder, gave more, that it would change. But that wasn't the case. And I would find myself in my past saying, what is happening? Why is this happening? Why don't I have better luck? Why doesn't it work out for me? What am I doing wrong? And so I would shift gears and try something different. It was still within that same pattern. I blamed the mishaps in my life on other things, circumstances, people. And I realized at the end of this week, really, not even at the end of this week, I think I started realizing it at the end of this week, but I really connected the dots today, this morning, and understood without a villain, the only thing left is accountability. Because I could look back in my life and I could name villains in my story. I have several of them. Just for example, in my childhood, if I were to look at how I was raised in this Assembly of God Pentecostal household and how I was taught to understand God and understand how we have to follow these specific rules so that God will love us. That's to me is a valid excuse as to why me and God didn't have a relationship. Why I chose not to go down that path. Because it didn't make sense to me. I told a story about my mom learning how to swim late in life. And one of the reasons, there could have been several reasons she didn't learn how to swim until late in life. But one of the reasons that I knew of is because when she was a kid in a Pentecostal household, they could only wear dresses. And she wasn't going to wear a dress in a pool. Had she? Probably. It probably wasn't comfortable. And so she didn't learn how to swim until later in life. Now, that's what her and I talked about. When I had inquired, that was one of the reasons. And I thought to myself, why does God care if you wear a dress or pants or shorts? Why does God care if you cut your hair or don't cut your hair? Why does God care if you wear makeup or don't wear makeup? Why does God, the creator of the universe, care about any of this? Like, it seems like to me, God had bigger things to be concerned with. Like, not if someone cut their hair or didn't. That seemed like a weird rule to me. And for me, I didn't want a relationship with anyone or any God that required stupid rules like that. I understand the 10 Commandments. Those make sense to me. Haven't killed anybody, but I have done a couple of the other 10 Commandments that I shouldn't have done. But the trivial stuff growing up didn't make sense to me. And I didn't want a relationship with a God that required stupid stuff like that. And so I chose not to. I chose not to have a relationship. And I even chose that in my adult life. Now, let me hit you with the thing that really smacked me across the face is that any time I could have done my own research, any time in my life I could have opened a book, any time in my life I could have sat still and said, yo, God, are you really there? There are many ways that I could have done my own research, but I chose to believe what I was told. Therefore, I chose not to have a relationship with God because I didn't like what I was told. I just said, oh, well, that's what God's about because My grandfather says it. He's a minister. My mom says it. She's my favorite person in the whole wide world. My aunts and uncles believe it. My grandma believes it. All these people in my life say this is right, so it must be. That's just one story of me not thinking for myself. And just like these soldiers who said, oh, the ark is coming. We're going to win now because our leaders say, if we have the ark, then we have the presence of God. That's what's going to change. That's what's going to help us win this battle. And it did not. The only thing that changed for me is when I started changing. When I started asking questions, when I started doing my own research, when I started to develop my own relationship with God. And let me tell you, at first, I was like, this is stupid. I am talking to the air. This is so dumb. Why am I doing this? And I couldn't even believe that I was doing this, that I was even thinking that there was something bigger than myself, that there was a God who wanted me to be everything that I could be, that there was a God rooting for my success, that there was a God who loved me with every single fault that I had had, that there was a God that loved me even when I didn't love myself, and that there was a God that wanted everything for me, even when I didn't believe in the existence of that God. God was still rooting for me every second of every day, even when all I did was deny the existence of God. And then you know what God did? God showed me. God showed me. And God has kept showing me every day, even some days when I wake up and say, I can't even do today. I can't even do today, God. I can't do it. You're going to have to do it because I can't. Even when I don't want to believe that day, God still shows me. And I don't have to have the presence of an ark. I don't have to wear a dress. I don't have to keep my hair a certain length. I don't even have to believe in the Bible. All I have to do is exist. And God says, I got you. I got you every day. So today, I removed every villain from my story. Every person, everything, every circumstance that I felt had done me wrong. Because at any time, I could have taken a different path. At any time, I could have made a different choice. All those times, I chose what I wanted. I chose my patterns. I chose what felt easier in that moment. I chose what I knew and what felt comfortable to me, because I can tell you this, healing has not been comfortable. Growing has not been comfortable. Letting God lead my life has not been comfortable. Setting boundaries has sucked. Losing people in my life It's the worst. Starting over has been stupid. And all of it has sucked. Those growing pains have sucked. And I try to keep the best outlook that I possibly can because I know that it's for a reason. But I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and say it's all rainbows and unicorns because it's not. But that's why I have God. Because on those days, I don't see any rainbows. On those days, no unicorns show up. God does. Every single time. Every time. And in the moments I start to doubt, even for a second, God shows up in the weirdest ways. In the weirdest ways. And I'm so appreciative. And I'm so grateful that I have changed. And I'm not living from those patterns, that I'm choosing accountability for my life and everything in it. Whether I could have helped the circumstance or not. And that I understand that the only person that's responsible for my life is me. And there have been many choices in my life that I could have changed. And I look back and see them clearly. And all I can say is, God, thank you for those lessons. Thank you for showing me the person that I was. Thank you for letting me see how much I've grown from that individual. And thank you to that individual for getting me right here to this moment, even sometimes when it sucks. And I know going forward that I'm not going to be in that group of 30,000 people who died because someone put me in a position of what they thought was right. I'm going to look at them and say, I don't think bringing the ark is going to help us. I think maybe we should, I don't know, train a little more, have a few better weapons if we're going to go to war. But I'm not going to let anyone make decisions for me or tell me what is right or wrong because God gave me discernment for that. God gave me the ability to choose for myself. Some people may not understand my choices. They don't have to. Just like I may not understand someone else's choices, and I don't have to. But I'm going to love you in the choices that you make. And maybe those choices mean that we're not in each other's life. That's okay too. Doesn't mean I don't love you. It just means right now, we just have different things that we're working on, different things that we're doing. Doesn't mean people have to stay in my life forever. That's another pattern that I continued in my life. I'm learning to question the truth in everything I was taught to believe. And those questions are helping me understand what I truly believe for myself, not for anyone else, but for myself. Because each of us has a purpose in this world, and our purpose is not the same. Our perspectives are not the same. What we're learning is not the same. What we're here to do is not the same. And I can't tell you how you're supposed to do your life because it's yours. I think one of the biggest lessons that I've been learning in this journey of growth, this journey of healing, is it's okay to be exactly who I am and let everyone around me be exactly who they are. even when I don't understand it. Because each person's journey is their own. And if someone else walks my journey, it's not my journey anymore. It's theirs. I just become the person following the leader.